if you were looking for unusual options activity, and you were in my shoes, right? You have to come up with a way. You have to think of a mechanism to detect unusual options activity and bring patterns and bring ideas and things that you've learned from the field, but write them as code so that we don't have to look for them manually. So where would a rise or a drop, pretty much a statistically significant change in 20-day average volume? Currently, I'm only looking for rising 20-day average volume. I am not looking for decreasing. If it's got decreasing 20-day average volume, that means that there's less activity, less people trading the options. Most likely the move already happened. With CCIV, here we go, last time Feb. Here we go from April 26th. There appears to be a gap of about 1 month from data point to data point, and the price didn't really change that much in that month, from 24 to 20 something. But then after this data point came this cluster of information. And notice that the last data point is June 7th. Today's June 10th. Does it begin to click as to why CCIV was showing up last week, but it's not showing up this week? The move already happened. In particular, I guess what alerted me to CCIV was, if we take the 20-day, this is all math, literally just all math. If we take, let's say whenever we ran that was around here, last week that is. So if we take this 20-day average volume and we subtract it from the previous time that we had an entry for CCIV. In this case, it just so happens that there's only 1 day of difference. But had I done that same exercise using this June 7th sample and then this June 3rd sample, there's definitely more than 1 day of difference. So I also have to take that into account. Going back to my point, I take this June 3rd options volume and I subtract it from the previous one. There was an increase of over 12,000 contracts on average. It made the average go up by 12,000 contracts from literally 1 business day to the other. I consider that pretty significant. The other metrics that we look at here are the amount of time. I keep going back to time because obviously it matters. Now, the way I'm determining the time factor is by using a 50 calendar day, which ends up being roughly 30 trading days, roughly, and as a drop off. So here's what I mean. On June 7th, whenever the scan was ran on June 7th, it will only look at data points that are no more than 50 calendar days apart. So is February 23rd, 2021 more than 50 calendar days apart from June 7th? I believe the answer is yes. But you know, the code is checking that for us. So in this case, I would not look at the sample. I would look at the samples that fit that 50-day look back, and sort of as a way to kind of demonstrate that really quickly. I know that you can probably do this in Excel, but this is effectively the logic for it. So we take date time, (2021) 6/7, right? That was the day, and we subtract 50 days. So 50 days, again, you can do the same exact thing in Excel. All I am doing is subtracting 50 calendar days from June 7th. And that leaves me at April 18th. So what that means is that when I ran the scan on June 7th, the last data point that I would have been able to compare against is this one on April 26th. Since it falls within the bounds of 618, anything after, 418, anything after 418, such as this February one, gets dropped off the comparison, because it's, you know, the events that took place in February may have absolutely nothing to do with the effects that are taking place in June 7th, then June 3rd, then June 2nd, then June 1st. You know, these are consecutive. So part of the ranking uses pretty much the least amount of time that there are in between these measurements, and the greater this difference is in between them, the higher the score the name is given. Does that make sense, or did I just confuse the hell out of everybody? So this opens up so many different doors, because, for example, with this information, especially having it historically, we could potentially do back tests. We can potentially look for conditions in the past, like as an example, let's say we would go back to November, December 2020. Okay, right around this period. There was a lot of unusual options activity going on around this time period that resembles what the same, pretty much the same type of stocks that are coming up now. So what we're able to do is we're able to go back in time, just like we're able to do here in the database, right? If we go, you know, to volume and look for a specific name, we can go back to December 2020 if obviously if there were options for that name, but you know, 2020 December and NDM, our darling, right? So I just want to see the 2020 December hits. We can do this in the database, but we can't do this currently with the top 10 names. As you know, every day, as the data gets updated and you run the scan, we get a brand new set of names. But I can't ask it to run this same exact scan, 5 days, this range, but from the perspective of data from Monday or data from, I don't know, 2 days ago, just so that I can compare the top 10 lists that were generated on Monday versus the top 10 lists that are being generated today. So since currently there's nothing exposed that allows us to directly compare the top 10 list, I figured I would add it here. Since this is in essence a culmination or an aggregation of these top 10 lists. I see, for example, Sophie up here. Let me make sure, yeah, I'm in 5 days. I see Sophie. Sophie was on yesterday's top 10. Clove was on yesterday's. Let me show you what yesterday's was, as a matter of fact, just so that I don't leave you guys in the dark here. So if we want to look at yesterday's, all I have to do is, well, 08 was yesterday. So let's do a range. I want to see from from 0 to 10 in reverse. So these are the names that the tool generated for 608, right? The data from the prior day. If we ask it to show us the data for today for 09, this is the same information that we're seeing here, right? Notice XOM at the top, AHT at the bottom, XOM at the top, AHT at the bottom, ride route at the bottom, ride route at the bottom, right? So there shouldn't be any doubt in your mind that the results of what I'm just showing you here is what's being displayed on the page. But what about the day prior to that? And what about the day prior to that? What about 2020? I guess there is nothing. 2020, let's go to 0915. We can go back to 2020 if we want to. These are the names that got generated had we ran the scan in 2020, September 15, 2020. So this is, at least in my opinion, a great way, or a pretty neat way, to track names over time as they appear into the top 10 lists and effectively make it here. For me, at least, the way that I've been trading lately, anything that appears here is actionable. And I mean, I can't say that I've taken every single trade, but I have taken a lot of them.